Have you ever sent a simple okay and then stared at your phone like it just insulted your entire bloodline? Or received a short reply and immediately thought, something is wrong, I have ruined everything? If yes, congratulations. You've just experienced the psychology of overthinking text messages. And before you judge yourself, let me say this clearly. You are not dramatic, broken, or weak. You are human. In fact, your brain is doing exactly what it was trained to do, just a little too enthusiastically. Today we're going to talk about why text messages turn normal people into anxious detectives, why one blue tick can feel louder than a shout, and what's really happening inside the mind of someone who overthinks texts, without sounding like a textbook or a therapy session you didn't sign up for. Let's start with a simple truth most people won't admit out loud. Text messages are emotional landmines. They look harmless, just words on a screen, but they carry tone, intention, timing, and meaning without actually showing any of those things. No voice, no facial expression, no context, just words. And the human brain hates missing information. When something is unclear, the brain doesn't calmly wait for clarification. It fills in the gaps. And unfortunately, it almost never fills them with positive assumptions. Your brain doesn't think, oh, they're probably busy. It thinks, they're annoyed. I said something wrong. They regret talking to me. Overthinking isn't a choice. It's your mind trying to protect you from social danger, just doing it in the most exhausting way possible. Think about how conversations work before texting. If someone spoke to you in person, you could hear their tone, see their body language, notice pauses, smiles, eye contact. Even silence had meaning. But with texts, silence becomes a monster. A message left on seen becomes a personal attack. A delayed reply becomes evidence in a courtroom that only exists in your head. Suddenly, you're replaying your last message like a crime scene. Should I have added an emoji? Was that too much? Was it too little? Why did I say LOL there? You're not even waiting for a reply anymore. You're interrogating yourself. People who overthink texts often have one thing in common: high emotional awareness. They notice details others ignore. They pick up patterns, they sense shifts. The problem is, text messaging removes most of the data they rely on. So their mind goes into overdrive, trying to reconstruct emotions from punctuation. Yes, punctuation. A period at the end of a sentence can feel aggressive. No emoji can feel cold. Too many emojis can feel fake. And don't even get started on lowercase replies. Somewhere out there, someone typed K and unknowingly caused emotional chaos. Overthinkers don't just read messages. They decode them. They analyze timing. They replied instantly yesterday but took 2 hours today. They analyze length. Their message is shorter than usual. They analyze wording. They didn't say my name. Every tiny detail becomes a signal, and the brain treats those signals as threats, even when they're neutral. Why? Because humans are wired for social survival. Thousands of years ago, being rejected by the group meant danger. So today, even a slightly dry text can trigger that ancient fear. Am I being pushed away? There's also something deeply personal about texting. It feels intimate. It's one-on-one. It's direct. So when something feels off, it feels personal. Even if the other person is just tired, distracted, or multitasking, the overthinking mind turns it inward. What did I do? This is especially true for people who care deeply about relationships. Overthinking text isn't about insecurity, it's about attachment. When you value connection, your mind works overtime to protect it. Now let's talk about the waiting. Waiting for a reply is where overthinking reaches Olympic levels. You send the message, put your phone down, pick it up, lock it, unlock it, check the screen, pretend you don't care, check again, convince yourself you're fine, check again. Every second stretches. Every notification that's not from them feels offensive. Your mind creates entire scenarios in the silence. Maybe they're typing and deleting. Maybe they showed your message to someone else. Maybe they're deciding how to let you down gently. All of this happens before anything actually happens. What's fascinating is that overthinking text often has nothing to do with the text itself. It's usually about past experiences. If someone has been ignored, ghosted, misunderstood, or emotionally dismissed before, their brain remembers. It learns patterns. So when a similar situation appears, even something small, like a delayed reply, the brain reacts as if history is repeating itself. It's not reacting to this text. It's reacting to every unanswered message that came before it. There's also the issue of control. Texting gives the illusion of control. You can edit your words, reread them, craft them carefully, but you can't control how they're received. That lack of control drives overthinking. People replay messages not because they enjoy it, but because they're trying to regain a sense of stability. If I analyze it enough, I'll understand what's going to happen. But emotions don't follow logic, so the analysis never ends. Let's add some humor here, because honestly, if we don't laugh, we'll cry. Overthinkers can turn the simplest exchange into a psychological thriller. Someone says, "Sure," and the mind responds, "Sure," as in yes, or "sure," as in forced agreement. Was that an enthusiastic sure or a reluctant sure? Someone says, "Haha," and suddenly it's, "Was that a real laugh or a polite laugh?" At this point, your brain deserves a detective badge. Another interesting thing about people who overthink texts is that they're often great communicators in person. They're expressive, warm, emotionally intelligent, but texting removes their strongest tools, so they compensate by thinking more, and thinking more, and more, until their thoughts are louder than the actual conversation. They don't struggle with communication, they struggle with uncertainty. Social media and instant messaging have made this worse. We're constantly exposed to how others communicate. We see people reply instantly, use perfect emojis, say the right things. So when our own conversations don't match that imagined standard, we panic. Why is this different? But what we forget is that everyone texts differently. Some people are dry texters, some are busy, some hate their phones, some forget to reply, and some genuinely don't think twice about it. Overthinkers assume everyone puts the same emotional weight into texts that they do. Spoiler, most people don't. There's also the fear of being too much. Overthinkers often worry about double texting, replying too fast, replying too slow, saying too much, saying too little. So they create invisible rules. Wait 5 minutes before replying. Don't send another message. Don't ask for clarification. These rules are meant to protect them from rejection, but they often create more anxiety. Because now, not only are they overthinking the message, they're overthinking the strategy. At the core of text, overthinking is emotional sensitivity. And that's not a flaw. It's a strength that just happens to be overwhelmed by modern communication. Sensitive minds notice emotional shifts quickly. They care deeply. They value clarity. But texting thrives on ambiguity. It's the worst possible environment for a mind that wants certainty. Let's talk about reassurance, because overthinkers crave it, but rarely ask for it. They don't want to seem needy. So instead of asking, "Hey, are we okay?" they spiral internally. They'd rather suffer quietly than risk appearing insecure. Ironically, the thing they fear, being seen as too emotional, is often what makes them so thoughtful and caring in relationships. One of the hardest parts of overthinking texts is knowing when it's happening and still not being able to stop. You might logically understand, this probably means nothing, but emotionally your body doesn't agree. Your chest feels tight, your mind won't slow down. This is because overthinking isn't just mental, it's physical. The nervous system gets involved. It's a stress response. And you can't logic your way out of a stressed nervous system by telling it to calm down. People who don't overthink texts often don't realize how intense this experience is. They say things like, "Just don't think about it," which is about as helpful as telling someone who's drowning to just breathe. Overthinking text isn't about choice. It's about wiring. It's about how someone learned to connect, attach, and protect themselves emotionally. Here's something interesting. Overthinkers often understand other people better than they understand themselves. They give others the benefit of the doubt, but not themselves. If someone else replies late, they assume they're busy. If they reply late, they assume they've messed up. The standards are unfair and exhausting. Now let's talk about the irony. Overthinkers care deeply about communication, but texting, their main source of anxiety, is also where they feel safest expressing themselves. Writing gives them time to choose words carefully. It gives them space, but it also gives them too much time. Time to doubt, time to replay, time to imagine outcomes that may never happen. Overthinking text messages doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're invested. It means you value connection. It means your brain is trying, sometimes desperately, to keep relationships safe. The problem isn't the caring. The problem is the constant interpretation without confirmation. And here's the part no one tells you. Most of the things you overthink about texts are never even noticed by the other person. That message you rewrote 5 times, they read it once. That emoji you debated, they barely registered it. That pause you analyzed, they were making tea. The emotional weight exists mostly on one side. So what changes everything? Awareness. Not stopping overthinking completely, that's unrealistic, but recognizing it for what it is. A protective habit, not a prophecy. A feeling, not a fact. A reaction, not reality. People who overthink texts don't need to become less emotional. They need more clarity, more self-compassion, and fewer assumptions. They need to remember that silence is not rejection, short replies are not personal, and tone cannot be accurately heard through a screen. The psychology of overthinking texts isn't about insecurity. It's about a sensitive mind navigating a world of unclear signals. And once you understand that, something shifts. The message doesn't disappear. The anxiety doesn't magically vanish, but it loosens its grip. You stop believing every thought. You stop turning every pause into a conclusion. Because at the end of the day, a text message is just a message, not a verdict on your worth, your importance, or your place in someone's life. And the moment you truly realize that, your phone becomes a lot quieter. Not because the messages stop, but because your mind finally does. And if you're overthinking this script right now, wondering if it described you a little too well, yeah, that was kind of the point.